BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Joining me today is David Schwartz. He is the CEO and co-founder of Hedge, and he is also the project director of both the Litecoin Foundation and Litecoin Gaming. But before we get into it, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to check out and explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Also, due to all the recent censorship, make sure you subscribe to my backup channel, Rice TVX2, the sequel. And I've also recently deleted more than half of my videos on my main YouTube channel, which means you can find 100% of my content plus exclusive videos over on Odyssey and Library. If you haven't already, be sure to visit ricetvx.com and sign up for the mailing list so that you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You can also find all my social media links as well as merchandise that is coming soon. If you'd like to support the channel directly, consider joining my Patreon, where I have 3 different levels of membership, or if you'd like to send a direct contribution or tip, I have my Cash App information, PayPal, and my CoinTree link for cryptocurrency addresses listed below in the video description. Take advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange. Get your free half ounce of silver. All you need to do is be a first-time buyer, visit moneymetals.com, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE. You get that free half ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel. I will include links down below in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything that we talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show is David Schwartz. He is the CEO and co-founder of Hedge, which you can find information at gethedge.io. He is also the project director for the Litecoin Foundation and Litecoin Gaming. David, I appreciate you accepting my invitation to come on the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was good to see you in Miami too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, and that's where I got this really cool Hedge shirt, by the way, too.
Yeah, awesome.
I love the design of Hal the Hedgehog.
Yeah, we were really excited as that kind of like morphed into what it is. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely was a pleasure seeing you in Miami. The first time I think we met in person was the Litecoin Foundation in 2019. And I was telling you, after I left the conference, everything got really crazy. And I sat some of my stuff down, reorganizing my my belongings, because I had gotten a lot of swag and then had my my bags and stuff, and I was going to be heading to the airport in the evening, and somehow lost my Litecoin Foundation bag, which had my Litecoin Foundation shirt.
Oh, the goodie bag, yeah.
But it's all good. I mean, I still had I got everything else aside from the shirt that I had lost in it, because I had like an Ellie Pal wallet, because Ellie Pal was there, and I had Bobby Lee gave me an extra ballet, and then there was a ballet wallet already inside of the bag too. So,
oh, nice. Yeah.
And then I ended up actually getting to do that interview with Bobby and Charlie, which was really cool.
Cool.
I did the interview with Bobby first. Charlie had agreed to do an interview with me back in 2018 at the first World CryptoCon, and John Kim was supposed to get everything set up, and a lot of things fell through the wayside. So when I interviewed Bobby, I was talking to Bobby after the interview and was telling him that, hey, Charlie had agreed to do an interview, but I can't get in touch with him. And so he texted his brother.
No, that's cool.
And then within 10 minutes, John Kim had messaged me, and we got everything set up for Charlie to come on the show. So yeah, that was really cool. Bobby's a really cool guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting the differences between him and Charlie, right? So Bobby being the older brother and Charlie, the younger, but their personalities are like night and day too in many ways. So
yeah, it's almost like Charlie's the older brother and Bobby's the younger brother in a lot of ways. Just the way that they seem to act around each other.
Yeah,
But it's cool.
and just the way they interact with people in general. Charlie's fairly reserved, and
Bobby can be boisterous.
Bobby's like very active and boisterous, and more opinionated, I guess, too. So it's funny. The first time I met him, I was kind of like, I had to take a mental step back while he's talking to me because I was preparing for just an older version of Charlie, and that's not what I got. So I was kind of like, okay.
I've been fortunate enough, though. It's been quite an experience since I've gotten involved in crypto. I've been able to meet a lot of really pivotal people that have done some really awesome things in cryptocurrency. I mean, Bobby being the first Bitcoin crypto exchange in China, and one of the first Bitcoin exchanges, not the first, but one of the first. And then Charlie, obviously, he's got a lot of success in a lot of different areas. But then the creator, the lead architect of Litecoin. So I got to get him back on soon and get an update on some stuff. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that since you're the project director of Litecoin Foundation. But before we talk all about Litecoin, for people who are unfamiliar with you, because the one cool thing about my channel, David, since about a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago now, I restructured my channel and started branching out and covering other content in addition to the crypto and economics, which has helped me to kind of break out of that crypto echo chamber.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who are watching this who may not even know that there's a Litecoin Foundation. So do you mind kind of introducing yourself for people who may be unaware of who you are?
No, yeah. And I did notice when you did that, and I thought that was a smart move, actually. So I was glad to see that. I wish more people would do. It kind of reminds me a little bit about what's his name? I think it's Lex Friedman. Yeah, so he's kind of all over the place. He doesn't stick to one topic, but the people that he brings in, they invoke some really good conversations. And so it's worth listening to things that maybe I've never spent time researching myself prior to that.
I appreciate you saying that too, because Lex is he wasn't an influence on what I was doing, but I could see the parallels after I started getting into his content. He has obviously a little bit of a reputation and a name that precedes himself. So me doing it as an unknown individual makes it a little bit harder to navigate, since I'm not like focused on one area and specializing in one area. But the idea of London Real and Joe Rogan show was kind of an inspiration for what I do.
Well, that'll, over time, like anything that gets pushed around to others, and it'll be noticed in due time. And I just think it's a good format to stick to, and I'm glad you're doing it. So thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. Who is David Schwartz?
Yeah. So David Schwartz, I'm a retired military guy. I retired in 2013. So I did 20 years, 3.5 in the Air Force and 16.5 in the Army. And then I went straight into a state job with the state of Wisconsin in human resources. So I really enjoyed consistent, kind of conservative, reliable income, which was, the military in the States. So everything was very predictable. I could set my budget to it. I didn't have to worry necessarily about layoffs per se, all kinds of stuff like that, right? So I tend to be, and I was that way with my stocks. I was that way with a lot of things. As I got older. And so I think it was like 2012, 13, heard about Bitcoin for the first time, but obviously it wasn't necessarily anything positive. It was more like, the whole Silk Road and drug dealers use it and so on and so forth. And so I took note of it, but I didn't really, I didn't do anything with it at the time. Plus I was still in the military when I first heard about it. And, at that point you work really hard to get to certain points in your life. And I had gotten to the point where I was working at large commands with like a top secret clearance and stuff. And I didn't want to get in anything that was questionable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just sort of I noticed it, and then I moved on with my life after that. But back in, I think it was 2016, I was investing in some riskier stocks, and I had sort of come on this one called, I think it was called MGT at the time. But then John McAfee became the CEO of it, and they rebranded it to like MGTI. So it was like, I think they did some stuff with gaming or whatever. And then he said he was going to create it into this like Bitcoin mining company, right?
Uh-huh.
And I remember it had wallowed around like 25 cents for the longest time, and I bought in at like 75 cents when I found out, because I knew about McAfee, the antivirus stuff. So I was like, well, I mean, if he could make that work, he could make this work, right? So 75 cents, I'll take a flyer on that, right? So bought some shares of that, and then I saw that thing fly up to like $4.50 or whatever, and I didn't sell or whatever, right? Because I just figured, well, he'll do some fun things with it. But over that time, because I didn't want to invest in something I didn't know anything about, I started sort of reading a little bit up on Bitcoin. And by the next year, I invested in my first Bitcoin, and that was around August of 17. And quickly learned about some of the other options that were out there. So bought into Litecoin and Ethereum and a few other things, and what I realized over time was that the Litecoin community was very friendly, very open, very welcoming as far as like, teaching you about what crypto was in general. And I think the most welcoming person for me was a guy who at the time fell under the pseudonym e-currency hodler, right? So
okay.
A lot of people know who he is now, but and he works, I believe, for Casa Hodl right now. But he sort of took me and John and a few others under his wing, and sort of would mentor us on everything from mining to Lightning to how exactly do all these things work as far as like Bitcoin and Litecoin specifically. But
when you say John, are you talking about John?
John Kim, yeah,
okay.
John Kim, and there was like a handful of us that kind of got into the foundation at the same time. So I joined the foundation in February of 2018 as a volunteer, and the month prior, I was just up north with my wife, and I had invested in these things called Bitcoin and Litecoin, and we had just started the very beginning of the bear market. So it was like December of 17, January of 18 was like the
very
apex.
Familiar.
I remember, and I've told this story to people. I remember, I had bought most of it before that, right? So I was still okay, but I remember buying some up near the top there too, because I just couldn't get enough of it. And I remember one night I was just kind of watching the charts, and it literally fell off a cliff, right? It went from Litecoin went from like 280 down to 100. And Bitcoin everything just like dropped within about an hour or so. And I was like watching it, I'm going, holy hell, how am I going to explain this to my wife? And from Mr. Ultra conservative guy.
You didn't take Charlie's advice in December of 2017.
Hell no.
when he called
I'm riding this thing to the moon, man. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, right? So
he seemed to be like, obviously now in retrospect, he had it. He nailed it. He nailed it in the coffin, like just straight up.
It. What's funny, the other part that kind of endeared me to Litecoin was he was always so like honest. It didn't matter if it was a detriment to him or not. He wanted to make sure that he was being honest with everybody. And so like he's the one who, I think it was in November of 17, was telling people, hey, China's going to ban Bitcoin, right? And people started like freaking out. And some people were like, yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And other people were like, holy crap. And then next thing you know, they're coming out with this news, or China's banning Bitcoin, and they're, so on and so forth. And so he always struck me as a guy who wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to do what they needed to do for their own good. And if he had the information to help people do that, he was going to let you know.
In a roundabout way, though, I don't think he could have like ethically said, hey, this is the top, everybody needs to sell.
Right. So
him saying it the way he did was kind of like a heads up to everybody, kind of like a community announcement, but without throwing himself under the bus.
Correct. And if you recall, at that time was also the time when he had like A little bit prior to that, he was selling his coins. So he was selling them at like $96, $155, and then some at like $315 or something. But the majority of it was in the lower two that I had mentioned. And so he also felt the responsibility to tell everybody that he did this, because that's just who he is. And I remember watching all these things happen. He was telling people, like when Bitcoin hit 10,000, he was like, hey, along with there were a few other people, they're kind of like, hey, this is a great milestone to hit. Maybe you want to think about unloading a little bit of what you have and take profit,
taking some
right?
dollar cost average, some
Yeah.
profits,
So he wasn't the only one, but he was one of the ones that at least I was following, where I saw him say that. And then it just kept going. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but it was over like a very short span where it went from like 10 up to about 18 or so. And then it just, from there it was back down again. But I remember when it just like plummeted in January. I think it was even like New Year's Eve, or it was January 1st or 2nd. I can't remember when it was, but it just fell off a cliff. And I was inside, I was panicking, but I was showing my wife, because I'm very much the same way. I'm like, I can't hold anything back from her. So I tell her, even if it's bad, I'll tell her stuff. And I'll be, hey, check this out. Look at what's happening here. And she's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I've heard, this kind of stuff happens all the time. So we're just going to hold. But inside I'm going like, oh my God, this is
terrifying.
I shifted all of my stocks into crypto at that point. I was completely out of the stock market. I didn't have any other investments. We were in between houses, right? So we had sold our house and we were staying with my parents, and we were getting ready to try and find another house. Or we hadn't even sold the other house yet. We're still trying to find another one. So we're like in this in between.
Wow.
We're staying with my parents. And so it was me, her, 3 of our kids, 2 dogs, right? All of my parents, like 1,800 square foot home that they're living in too. And so like, I'm thinking, if I lose all my money, what am I going to do? But I held on, and it was interesting. Later on in late January, I was thinking, what can I do to maybe help? Thinking I could like help the price go up or something. I was like, what can I do to kind of help the price go up? Because at that point, it was still about money. I mean, tech had taken a larger portion of why I was into it, but it still, most of it was, being honest, most of it was still money.
Yeah.
So,
I got in for money too, and then realized the technology and everything and the disruption that these technologies could create.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that, and that was growing in my priorities for being in it, but it's still, the majority was still money. So we're up north, and I was like, man, what if like I had like 22 followers at the time, and they were just people that I knew. They were friends and family or whatever. And I said, hey, what about like adding Spotify as someone who accepted payments in Litecoin? And I don't know, for whatever reason, a few people caught wind of it. And I think Zinzi liked the idea. Zinzi Wang, he's a board director from the foundation, and a few other people liked it. And it caught fire. So I tweeted it right before we left to drive home. And within 2 or 3 hours, it had like 2,000 likes and, some retweets and whatever. I'm just some schmo guy, right? And that like lit a fire under me. I'm like, well, maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I didn't make a difference in the price, but maybe I can make a difference in what people hear and see. And that kind of gave me a new purpose, because my job at that point was, I was HR for the state, which was, it's not that exciting. And I mean, yes, you're making a difference in people's lives, but it's not like when I was in the military and I was feeling like I was doing some things to really, make a difference. So this was a new thing for me that totally captured all of my imagination and my energy and my time. And I remember a guy, his name is David also, but he was out of New York. And he had asked Charlie just bluntly, we were doing like some kind of a meme challenge with him on Twitter or something. And he just started just talking to us about how he was learning how to fly. He was getting his pilot's license. And once again, I'm like, this guy's just a normal dude, right? And
Charlie?
Yeah. And
I didn't know he flew.
Yeah. And so then I'm just like, this is great. And so then David was like, hey, how can I volunteer to help with Litecoin? And then Charlie was like, DM me your email address and we'll get you onto the Slack or whatever. And so then I saw that and I just remarked, I said, hey, I want to do something too, right? So then he DM'd me on the side and I remember getting it and I had to like double check to make sure it was really him. I showed my wife, I said, what do you think? And she's like, well, you got to do it. So I sent them the email, and they brought in like, I think it was 5 or 6 of us at the same time into the Slack channel. And it was me, and it was John Kim, this guy named David, and a few other people. And we were just like, and I don't know if you've ever been in Slack, but you can you have your own channels where you can talk to each other in private. Yeah. We're all talking to each other like, holy crap, we're here in the foundation Slack. It was like all this stuff. And like freshmen at the first day of college, we're like, dude, we're going to get so lucky tonight. It was just all funny stuff. And I noticed over time, I mean, most of the people that were in there were like developers or people that had been in it for a long time or part of the mining industry or whatever. And I just didn't fit. None of my talents really fit with like these tech guys. And so I was like, well, if I'm here, I'm not going to waste an opportunity to make a difference. So where could I make a difference? Right. I'm good at organizing some things. I've done projects. I've managed things, So one of the things I realized over time was the crypto events, like conferences, were really starting to become noticeable, and they're getting a lot of people to come in. And so one day I just asked a question in the general area. I was just like, have you guys ever done like a conference or anything? And then I asked E on the side. So E turned into kind of like my mentor babysitter on the Slack channel. And I was asking him, and he said, no, that sounds like a good idea though, but you should talk to Keith. And so I talked to Keith, and I asked him, and he said, no, we haven't done one, but that sounds like a great idea. Next thing you know, the foundation was like, yeah, we should have an event, and maybe you should be the one who runs it. And I was like, well, I've helped run, put together conferences and stuff before, but we're talking about like for, 50 generals each, for of the National Guard for each state, and they all come with their wives, and it's all, whatever the stuff. not like a crypto conference. And so
right.
I didn't realize what I was getting myself into with that, but it was really exciting. And so we started planning the first Litecoin Summit, which was in South San Francisco in 2018. And that was my first volunteer thing. So I volunteered for about 8 months. And then after that was done, the summit was over, Charlie asked me if I wanted to come on as a part-time project director. And I said, yeah. So that's a very long-winded explanation of it. But I don't think I ever went into that detail before on a show about how I got to that point.
Well, I appreciate that. And we kind of had like, I kind of interrupted you, and we kind of got,
no, you're good.
Sidetracking for a minute. But no, I really appreciate that, because I was wondering how you really got involved. And when I met Charlie, I kind of want to relate to what you were saying about him just being a down to earth, cool guy. Me getting a little bit of history, him being, not racist, but him being Chinese, working at, going to school at MIT, working at Google, working at Coinbase, all of that added up to this dude must not be a good guy. And when I met him, it was like the complete opposite. I found out he was a Star Wars, Star Trek geek. Loves sci-fi. One cool thing that I will share with people is at the Magical Crypto Conference, the first and only one that took place.
Yeah, you got to go? I'm jealous.
Yeah, I got to go to that. Well, I pulled a Ken Bozak to get in.
Serious?
And I was with Ken Bozak. I ended up getting a VIP
Ken's good
pass.
At that.
I ended up getting the VIP pass. He just had a regular pass. And the VIP passes allowed you to get food from a food truck. Yeah. And it was raining outside. I think it was, I can't remember if it was a 1 or 2 day event. I think it was a 1 day event. But it was raining outside, and Charlie wanted some food. The VIP passes gave you the opportunity to get food off the food truck as part of the package. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so me and Ken are out there talking about getting food, and we're talking to Charlie. Charlie ends up giving Ken his badge so that he can get food for both of them. So I got this picture here.
Oh, that's funny.
The Charlie Lee speaker, but that's me and Ken were taking pictures with Charlie Lee's badge. Like, we are Charlie Lee.
Charlie's awesome.
Charlie just cool people.
Did Ken ever tell you how he snuck into the 2018 Litecoin Summit?
No. I know he snuck into conference.
He was not supposed to be there. And or he hadn't paid for a ticket or anything, and he just
Right.
kind of like he had showed up and was trying to get in, and I wouldn't let him in. So I was telling the people up front, don't let him in. He doesn't have a thing or whatever. And sure enough, he was able to get a hold of John Kim, and John came over and was like, hey dude, come on, man. I'm like, he doesn't have a pass. He's not getting it. It's my first one. I want to make sure everything's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be. And I didn't care who it was. And so John and a couple other guys, Ben and then they were doing something on stage later on. And so they snuck him into a costume to where you couldn't see who it was. And it was Ken under the costume. And so they had this thing in the room where they were doing their panel thing, and like he comes dancing out in the costume and then he takes it off. And I'm standing in the back going, that son of a bitch, how did he get in? So then he gets escorted back out after they're done or whatever. I'm trying to remember all this in my head, but
he's been escorted out plenty of times.
Yeah, so then he's trying to get back in, and I see Charlie over in like the booth where all the sponsors are at, and I was like, Charlie, Ken's trying to get in, and he didn't pay for anything, and I got a few people asking if he can come in. I just want to know if you're okay with it. And Charlie just looked at me and he goes, just let him in. I was like, okay. So I went over and Ken got in, and to this day, that's kind of a running joke between him and I.
Well, was this before or after Ken got the Litecoin tattoo?
I have no idea.
Remember? Okay.
I don't know if it was before or after. I'm not sure.
Because I want to say he had the Litecoin tattoo before I met him, or around the time period that I met him, which would have been like the end of summer of 2017.
Yeah.
When we first kind of started meeting. And then I started my channel. My first video came out January of 2018, early January 2018. I did like 3 videos, an intro and 2 other videos. And then I had a scheduled interview on Ken's show.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was kind of like what started me off. I went to Consensus with him the year after he snuck in, because he snuck in 2018. In 2019, he had a pass. I snuck in with him that time. So I snuck into Consensus and the Magical Crypto Con, and it's not like I do it more from a rebellious standpoint of like, why are you charging so much? I'm just going to crash.
Yeah, because some of those, man, they charge a crap ton of money.
Consensus is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, I don't mind supporting people when I can, but going there as media, I'm trying to promote and stuff.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, even just so you know this, I don't have a problem sharing it. But I did the same thing at Bitcoin 2021. They wouldn't give me they would not give me a media pass. I kept reaching out, and nobody would get back with me. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but I did talk to a few people, but they directed me to someone else. That someone else never would reach back out to me. So I ended up getting a few people in, and then me and a group of people tried to sneak into the after party, and we got busted for that and kicked out. It was at the Oasis. Yeah, it was pretty funny. We were throwing the bracelets over the fence to each other. Yeah,
Hedge, when we got a booth there at Miami 2021 for Hedge, and it was our first booth. And I remember they were telling us, because Bitcoin Magazine's the one that was hosting it, and they're like, just so you know, this is a Bitcoin only conference, so please ensure that you're focusing on Bitcoin in anything that you're doing. And we were like, yeah, okay, if that gets us a booth, we'll play the game. And so we made sure Bitcoin was up on the back of the thing. And I mean, they got to protect their interests and the reasons why they're doing it. So I mean,
yeah, but it was hypocritical.
But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Yeah,
they had Tony Hawk there.
Yeah,
and Tony Hawk was building NFTs on Ethereum and promoting them. So and
Chamath decided not to even. He was on the leaked speakers list. I can't say his last name. So
yeah, I know you're talking about the guy that used to be involved with Facebook.
Yeah, and I mean, he was one of their highlighted big speakers, and he got in a discussion with them about I think it was about the Bitcoin only thing, and decided not to speak anymore after that. So yeah,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
it
I
was
understand.
interesting.
I understand their point of view, but they are leaving out a lot. And I'm not really down with a lot of the maximalist mentality because I've seen too much growth in technology in my time, and I know that as much as I like Bitcoin, it is somewhat of an antiquated technology when it comes to cryptography. I mean, there are a lot of other blockchains that are a lot more improved. They don't have the security that Bitcoin has. But I definitely don't think that that Bitcoin was going to be the top cryptocurrency forever. I feel like,
or the only,
right, we may be like, this whole thing may be inspiring some young individual or group of individuals to be the next Satoshi Nakamoto and create something that just far surpasses all of this in technology. I mean, being able to have like the kind of, if you took Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin and just wrapped them all up into one, you got the speed and security, and then you have the smart contracts and dApps and things like that. I mean, I think that it would be possible, and I think that, you know, people like Charlie Lee and Satoshi and all these different coders and developers are going to be influencing that next generation of cryptographers, cypherpunks.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a beautiful thing. I didn't mean to go this long, but I guess let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what Hedge is, since we've been mentioning it, and I'm wearing this awesome swag.
I was having fun talking about the other stuff, but I can definitely do
it's cool, dude. I wanted to tell you, I've been getting a lot of compliments. I love the colors. A lot of other people have been complimenting the colors, and again, I really like Mr. How the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I can sort of expound on that too, how we came up with everything. But
is How like homage to How Finney?
That is exactly who it's homage to. Yep, that's part of the story behind them. So
I don't want to ruin it.
Oh no, that's fine. It's like even if you click on the blog area, since you got it up there, if you click on blog, it'll be the most senior blog that we have. So the first one down there, hedging our bets on a rebrand. It talks about it in there. It used to be called CP3, which was an acronym for Crypto Personal Payment Plan, right? But in a world where everything has to be short and it has to make sense and it has to be able to explain to people what it is, CP3 just really wasn't ringing true.
Yeah, it would not have gathered a payroll.
It was not done by a marketing person. It was done by yours truly, who thought he could do marketing, and it wasn't really. So at some point I had mentioned a couple of names like earlier on in the process, and Hedge was one of those, and that stuck with one of the guys that I work with. His name's Josh Hughes. He's our operations director, and Craig Thornton. He's our creative director, who also works with the Litecoin Foundation. But we're talking about how, we should probably come up with a different name that's more marketable. And then Josh was like, well, you remember the word hedge? And I was like, yeah. And he said, I think that would be great because, it has multi-purposes. And I was like, yeah, I loved hedge. I don't know why we didn't go with it to begin with. Let's do that. But now we have to start forming around that. How are we gonna market that? And so we went with hedge. And then one of the things I wanted to do was make sure it wasn't focused on a person, right? Like me as the CEO or whatever, because I want it to be a product that everybody can identify with, and I'm fallible, right? And people can be endeared to you for a period of time. Next thing you know, they turn on you, and when they turn on you, they turn on the company. And I don't want that. I want it to be something that's for everybody, but in order for it to be for everybody, it has to have something everybody can identify with. And I'm not that. So we came up with a mascot, and I couldn't come up with what exactly we wanted to do at the beginning. And Paul, so you're going to hear a lot of names because this is a total team effort, but Paul Bradley, who's the COO, I'm sorry, his girlfriend was asking, like, why don't you use like a hedgehog, because it's called Hedge. And so then he wrote me this little thing about how hedgehogs are very deliberate and focused on one thing so that they do them very, very efficient and properly. And I thought that was really cool. And hedgehogs are cute, right? So we went ahead with the hedgehog, and then I told Craig about that. And so I asked him to come up with some designs. And so he had one originally. I told him we had to come up with a name. So I was down in Florida with my wife, and we were getting ready to go into a Target, and we had thrown around some names, and we were joking around, and, you know, names that started with an H or whatever. And then as we parked in the Target parking lot, I remember thinking, Hal. And I was like, Hal Finney. Oh man, how appropriate is that? That is perfect, right? So then I'm all excited. I didn't even want to go into the store. I just wanted to like tell everybody what I was thinking about. And my wife's like, we got to go in the store. So I'm like walking and trying to write to them on the Slack the entire time. I'm like, let's do Hal Finney, because, you know, obviously he's one of the first people. He got the first transaction. He's key to everything that we're even doing here today. And I think it would be a great homage to him if the hedgehog's name was Hal. So then once we came up with a name, I was telling Craig, let's think of some ways to make it relate to a couple different generations, right? Because you don't want it to be targeted to just one demographic. This is supposed to be for everybody. So Hal Finney made it a cypherpunk type of thing. And so I thought, you know, punk, why not have his hair standing up on the top, but you still make him look cute enough that people like him. And then, you know, he's cute. I mean, just look at him. He's cute. So every time we showed Hal to a female, the first thing out of their mouth is like, "Aw," right? So you connect with females in that way. So you're drawing in a demographic that, you know, many people argue that crypto sort of ignores, but I tend to feel like it's for everybody, but we just happen to have a majority of males that have come in first. But I do feel like, you know, this is something that could endear, you know, the female gender as well. And then the way you bring in the younger generation is a lot of people, including some of my kids, are into things like, you know, cyberpunk, you know, the colors and, you know, that sort of feel or whatever. So we went with the brighter colors and the goggles, and that's how you got Hal the way he looks now. And Craig just did a phenomenal job, and we would always bounce it off of everybody on the team, find out what they thought. And then we had Danielle Monet, who was Summer Rae in the WWE. She's our marketing director, and she
who was she?
She was Summer Rae, so
Okay.
RAE, yeah. Now she has red hair now, but she was blonde in the WWE, and she has quite the following.
Is she with Hedge
she's our
Litecoin
marketing
Foundation?
director. No, she's with Hedge. She's our marketing director, but
How'd
she loves Litecoin too. So
how'd you come about meeting a former female WWE
it's
wrestler?
interesting, man. So Josh Hughes, the guy I told you about earlier, he lives like 5 minutes from me here, but I met him when he was 13. I was like 26. I was in between the Air Force and the Army at the time. We lived in a duplex, and he lived on the other side with his mom. And so we just always kind of kept in touch and stuff. But he knew her through a mutual friend. And so we were like, well, you know, maybe we should think about influencers and being able to, you know, provide this to a demographic that maybe we haven't touched yet. And he goes, you know, hey, I'd like you to meet this Summer Rae, this Danielle. And, you know, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She's very able to like capture people when she's talking. She's very engaging. And after just talking to her like for about 4 weeks, and we just talked about crypto. So she wanted to learn about crypto in general and Litecoin and Bitcoin. And so I started teaching her. And we just kind of hit it off, and I was like, yeah, I'd really like to have you in a different kind of a role if you're interested. And she thought it'd be great. She was ecstatic, and we've gotten great response from her through all these things. And she loved the Hal thing. She kind of helped us tweak a few things with it, and that's what you get now.
Very cool. Very cool. I didn't know that. That's interesting to
learn.
Yeah,
she's wonderful.
I think I stopped watching wrestling when she was, because I was looking at a picture. She looks somewhat familiar, but I grew up watching wrestling.
Me too.
Really love wrestling, but I would say after 2000, it was like every once in a while I would try to watch to keep up with what was going on. And then I just like, this is ridiculous. I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah, I was into the old school, like Andre the Giant, Greg the Hammer Valentine,
Like
Hulk Hogan, all
old
those. Oh,
NWA,
yeah.
old like
And
Mid-Atlantic Wrestling,
yes, when it was still
WWF.
broken up by regions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I'm in North Carolina, which is like where a lot of that
oh, that's
started.
like the capital of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like the pro wrestling mecca. But I hadn't watched it since like mid '90s, and so I really was disconnected from all of that, and I didn't. I'd see things here and there. Like I knew The Rock used to be a pro wrestler. Never watched any of his matches. Never seen any. I mean, I just there's a time period there of about 20 years, but 25 years. I just it doesn't matter.
Right.
But when Josh introduced me to her, they kind of like lit an old flame in me. So I've been watching like old matches from like the 80s and early 90s, and like I love documentaries. I love the backstories
Me
to
too.
things. And so to me, when you hear news, it's like I've always been really big into sports. I wanted to be a sports writer. That's what I wanted to actually do coming out of high school, is I wanted to be a sports writer. And so I used to read documentaries on all kinds of stuff that happened in sports. Like if you were to read up on like Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden, from the 80s and the Mets, and that whole clubhouse was just insane.
Right.
Keith Hernandez and all those guys. It was like mayhem in a clubhouse kind of a thing. Or you read about like the 60s Packers or just anything, doesn't matter what it is. But I love all the backstories and learning about the individuals and the things that happened that you never got to hear about. So yeah, that kind of turned me on to watching some of these documentaries about pro wrestling now, and how some of these guys have really aged, and some of them not very well, and others like some have passed away. And
The movie The Wrestler is a really good way of kind of describing a combination of what you just mentioned, when like wrestlers retire or when they're getting to the point where they're getting older and they're not in the spotlight, where they're not getting paid the big bucks. They're not on the big shows. They're going on the road, traveling, playing a bunch of small gigs, trying to pay their bills,
signing some autographs,
selling merchandise. Kind of yeah, it can be sad. Thankfully, though, with I think because even football was the same kind of way. You meet some old football players and their heads have been mushed. Boxers, some people are learning, which is one of the reasons why I think that you're finding wrestlers retire a lot earlier too.
Sure.
Like for The Rock, he didn't really wrestle very long.
It's probably what, a handful of years, 5 years or something?
Maybe 10 good years.
Oh, was
maybe,
it? Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Tells you how ignorant I am.
Yeah, it could have been 15 if you include like some of the independent circuit stuff, because I mean he came from a family of wrestlers.
Yeah, and he was a linebacker at University of Miami too, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Pretty sure he was.
I believe so.
Yeah, he was a Hurricane.
So, man, we could have a conversation about a lot of different things.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, I definitely want to bring you back on and have like a more chill conversation. What I'd like to do is I do these crypto rewinds with Satoshi Sean every Friday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time, and we bring on a different guest. And we just kind of cover different cryptocurrency news that catches our attention. Mm-hmm. It's not always the same generic news that all the other crypto channels are pushing. It's, like we covered in the last episode, the infrastructure bill, because of how important that is.
Yeah.
EIP 1559, which everybody was covering, but that was a big deal. And then the BSV 51% attack. But I because of my political stance and ideologies, I like to cover a lot of things in regards to that, because those are some of the things that are going to have the biggest impacts on cryptocurrency as a whole. Yeah. The regulatory stuff.
Yeah.
Now with Hedge, I really, really like this idea of being able to automatically convert part of your pay or even all of your pay into Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. Can you explain how it works? Yeah.
So I've always figured one of the biggest barriers is, trying to replicate in crypto what people do with their regular life. And so one of those was payroll, right? And to get a company to pay somebody in crypto is virtually impossible, right? The majority of people that are doing it are crypto people that own a crypto company that maybe pay their people in crypto. But as far as the regular world, it's not going to happen, or it's going to be a long time before that really ever happens, if it does. So what this does is it creates a bridge from, the regular world into the crypto space for people who want to get involved. They want to bypass the exchange experience. And they just want to, it's just a simple way to take some of your pay, however much you want, have it redirected into an account, a bank account that's only set up for this purpose. You can't do anything else with it.
Okay.
And according to the predetermined crypto and wallets that you put in, that money will then be converted into the crypto and sent to the wallets that you've designated ahead of time. So if you own like a Celsius wallet and an Alipal, and you want like $200 of your paycheck to go into those two wallets as Bitcoin, you could do that through this, right? And you could just set it up that way and just forget about it, and a dollar cost average every payday. So every time money goes into that account, it's going to change it into Bitcoin and send it to the appropriate percentages that you've set up into each of those wallets.
Awesome. That's very cool. Now, are you going to be, because I know this is, a brand new thing. Are you guys going to be adding any other features, like for someone to not have to necessarily do it with their paycheck, but like just kind of like Swan Bitcoin has a dollar cost average as a custodial service, X amount, they'll automatically transfer it unless you want to manually transfer your stuff over to your non-custodial wallet?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a lot of things that we have on our roadmap. The interesting thing about what you mentioned with Swan and others that do that, I mean, Coinbase and others have this feature as well, right? So you can set up an automatic
recurring buying.
Yeah, it's a recurring pull from your bank account. And then, but what we're doing is we're bypassing your bank account. We're bypassing the exchange. And it's just anytime money ends up going into that account that's set up for you, it's going to get converted according to whatever you've asked for and sent to wherever you want it to go. And the reason why we have it set up that way, for one, is that so Paul, our CEO, he comes from the payments and banking side. He did over 20 years over there, and he's always harping on me how the easiest thing to do is to have fraudulence occur through something like an automated pull out of your bank account. It's a lot harder to do that through your payroll, right?
Okay.
So if we were to do something like what you mentioned, would put our users at a higher risk level than if we're having it come straight from their employer into an account and then it's getting rerouted and exchanged and sent to their wallets. Nobody else has the capability of touching that because it's coming straight from the payroll service that the employer uses, right?
Right.
Versus someone can get into your bank account and wipe you out clean, even through an automated recurring, especially for people who don't pay attention to their bank statements or their bank accounts very much, because there's some people, they're just too busy to care, right? They know they have enough money. And so, it's like somebody nickel and diming you, like Office Space, the movie, right? Take a penny here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows, nobody cares. And that stuff happens all the time. So going straight from your payroll service into your crypto wallet is a lot safer. You don't have as much fraudulence involved. And so that's the reason we chose that track to begin with. Whether we do the recurring out of the bank account, I have no idea, but we have other things that we have planned along the way as well.
Okay.
So
it's a dedicated bank account so that the funds that you're transferring from your paycheck wouldn't actually be taken out of your paycheck. It would be depositing into an account, and then you allocate a certain portion of that paycheck, and then that would pull out to get the
like if you were to sign up for it, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to go onto our website and you're going to register and go through the identification process that it's you and everything. But then what you're going to do is when you finish that, you end up getting a routing and bank account number, because now there's been an account that's set up specifically for you, only for that. You can't like write checks. You can't spend money out of it, nothing else. It's only there for that. But you get that routing and account number, and you take that back to your payroll service and your employer, and you do a direct deposit request.
That makes sense.
And that's it. And
That's
then
cool for
you
you
change the
explaining it.
amounts. Yeah, you change the amounts and the allocations as you see fit, and that's it.
I definitely appreciate explaining it and not giving anybody the impression of that it's actually literally coming straight out of your paycheck and things to that effect.
Yes,
and why
because
you guys are doing it like that, because of the precautionary, because you guys taking extra precautionary measures to make sure that your clients are taken care of.
yeah. And so it feels exactly like you're getting paid in crypto. There is a step in between where you're actually receiving it in dollars, but you don't actually access any of that at the time when it receives the dollars from your employer, right?
Right.
So the cool thing about that is the employer, nothing tax related changes because they're still paying you in dollars, and nothing changes for you personally tax related because you're initially receiving it in dollars. So really this solves the other conundrum that a lot of people ask about, which is, well, what happens if I'm getting paid in crypto? What's the tax implications for that? There aren't any, because you're literally, the step in between is you're getting paid in dollars. So it negates all the questions that have to do with it. And then you've determined yourself and given us the directions of how that's going to be, converted and where it's going to go.
Very
so
cool.
We're just doing that for you.
Now, is Hedge live, the services? Can anybody
No,
use
but we have a live beta that's coming out here in literally just a few weeks. And we have some higher profile people that are going to help us, besides friends and family, that are going to help us with that first beta.
Okay.
And I'll put out more, or Hedge will put out more about who specifically those people are here in the next few weeks. It's really exciting, and it's fun for us that they've decided to be a part of it. So we're very happy about that. It gives us a little exposure in different areas with them being beta testers with us. And then we'll have some, obviously, friends and family to test it out. But after that's done, and it shouldn't take very long, then the live beta for everybody is live in the United States. And the EU and the UK will come probably a little bit later down the line, but that's already being worked on as well. And then we're also focusing on, within the next 6 to 12 months, Latin America and Southeast Asia. So.
Smart. Very cool. Well, I guess let's try to plan on, once you're opening up this to the public, let's try to coordinate that around the same time period to bring you on the Crypto Rewind, so that way we can promote that at the beginning of one of those live streams.
I appreciate that. We were hoping to have it live by now, but this is people's money, so we want to make sure we're doing it right before we put anything out. So, and
I commend that, because I think I sent you my schedule about a month ago. You scheduled ahead, and I guess you were assuming everything was going to go good, but now you seem to be smart enough not to set deadlines and set dates, because that seems to be one of the most problematic things in crypto is everybody's setting a date and not keeping it. So I commend you on just being transparent and honest. Because when you're dealing with people's finances, you definitely want to make sure that you're doing it 100% correct, and not having to learn from too many mistakes, because those mistakes could be detrimental to somebody else.
And you want the right partners too, right? So we've gone through this, maturation process of our own through the couple of years that we've been getting this set up and ready, finding the right people to deploy this with. And so we have some really, really good, strong partners who have strong banking ties and strong ties with, like MasterCard and a few other things. So, there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline for Hedge that we're really excited about. And I think the other thing I wanted to do with Hedge was make sure it was agnostic. So Hedge, the product, can be its own product, but Hedge, the function, like being able to take payroll, direct deposit, and then convert it automatically into crypto, can be utilized anywhere. So we have wallets already that want to integrate a white label solution of Hedge into their wallets, right?
Very cool.
And we've talked to exchanges. Exchanges are interested in this. And so it's very likely in the future, if you see an exchange or a wallet doing something very similar, it could very possibly have Hedge in the background doing that for them.
That's smart, and I could see that something like that taking off 100%. Especially white labeling it like that, where companies can utilize the technologies. Yeah, dude. Well, we're definitely gonna have to. You have to keep me up to date with what's going on. I definitely want to do a follow up, not just on the crypto rewind, but a follow up when you guys are getting a little bit more information with the roadmap and having a better idea of when things are going to start taking place.
Yeah, I think if we did something maybe in another like month to 6 weeks, everything should be out, and it'd be a lot easier to talk about the features. We could do maybe a live demo or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So, also, I'll try to. I don't know who you talk to. You don't have to give me any information right now, but I'll try to reach out to Robert Beatles with Monarch, because one of the things that Monarch is doing, and one of my sponsors, they're trying to be that central marketplace for cryptocurrency, kind of taking a bunch of different services like what you're doing, what Celsius is doing, and put them all in one spot. And then the other cool thing about using a service like that is that if you're using Monarch to utilize Hedge, you wouldn't have to do two KYC processes. You would just do the one KYC through Monarch, and the way that their process works is it works on the other elements. So you wouldn't have to set up a separate KYC for Celsius or for Hedge if you were using something to that effect. So cool ideas. I'll definitely have to talk with you more about this privately.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Do you have anything that you wanted to add? I wanted to talk about some Litecoin related things, but I think we can probably do that in another conversation, kind of focused more on Litecoin specifically.
Yeah, so the one thing, and maybe it's a teaser for next time or whatever, but we can talk shortly about Litecoin Gaming.
Yeah, let's go. Do you want to just kind of introduce the idea of what it is? Because the foundation, obviously, there's not a lot of information. I mean, people are aware of what the foundation is.
Well, right. So this is exciting.
Litecoin Gaming?
Litecoin Gaming was an initiative that was brought to me by literally some gamers and streamers who are avid Litecoin supporters and investors, and they wanted the guy that originally came to me. He came to me at the last summit that we had in Las Vegas.
Okay,
I believe it was Las Vegas, and kind of bounced the idea off me, but it wasn't necessarily the right time at that time to do something like that. And so just told him, hey, get back with me when you feel like maybe the environment's a bit better for this type of a thing. And so he got a hold of me about 6 weeks ago or so. And he's been in the gaming space for a while, has lots of, good contacts, good people around him, and brought this team together. Literally, this is only like a month old. And these guys are hyper active, very organized. You have streamers. We have 2 actual teams that play under the Litecoin Gaming organization now.
Okay.
Some of them have done very, very well in the games that they play in. We have, people that are interested in kind of hitching their wagon to Litecoin Gaming now that have been in the gaming space for a while. So I'm really excited about the direction this is going in. But what this is supposed to do is bring Litecoin to a demographic in an area that, maybe some crypto in general just hasn't really penetrated very well yet. So like all of your Twitch crowd and all the like esports and streamers and just gamers in general, right? So these guys, through all their activity and their how organized they are, were able to reach out into the gaming world and bring Litecoin, the message of Litecoin, to people who may not have heard it yet, or reinvigorate people who have heard about it in the past. Maybe they're not in crypto right now or whatever, but it puts us out there in an area where not too many people are right now. So it's been very exciting. I can say that next week there should be a pretty cool announcement coming out for some gaming related stuff involving Litecoin and the organization.
Now, is it only going to be like a payment sort of thing, or is there going to be like any sort of potential integrate? Because I know this is new, so I may be asking questions that you're right now not to answer. But is there going to be any integrations for having any games built on the Litecoin blockchain?
So Lightbringer's on the Litecoin blockchain, and I think that was a great example of that happening. But these guys are more focused on taking it out to all of the young people that are on all of the different social medias and gaming and streaming platforms, and just putting the word out about Litecoin. So it may prompt some interest from developers to do something. I know that we've been paying some of the people that have done like the creatives for this, been paying them in Litecoin, right?
Very cool.
And some of the gamers, some of the streamers have talked about how they'd like to have Litecoin donations instead of just dollar donations when they do their gaming. So those are all things that'll come about just naturally. But as far as like building on the blockchain any more games, I'm not sure exactly. I don't think it's going to come from this, but it may spark somebody to think about a game they could do on it.
That's cool. I'm definitely really looking forward to seeing a lot more things being built on blockchains and utilizing that distributed ledger technology.
Yeah.
And getting it off of like the normal ways that we've been doing things. Well, dude, I really have enjoyed this conversation, and we definitely got to do it again. So I did take a note to 4 to 6 weeks to try to follow up on a one-on-one, and then I'll get in touch with you about the crypto rewind thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was there anything else that you wanted to add, or any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
I would just say keep an eye on gethedge.io, and you can follow us at gethedgecrypto on any of the socials. Specifically, I think Twitter's obviously our most active, but and we're giving away some free T-shirts right now. Actually,
you guys, do you have an overstock of medium-sized T-shirts?
Yes.
I was wondering when I saw that post. So because you ordered shirts in advance and got real screen printing.
Yeah. And we have some more things coming. We're going to actually have our own merchandise shop for Hedge gear because people love Hal so much.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
And one of the cool things we're going to do is in the actual Hedge product, like when you put in your information, like whatever your profession is that you do. Our goal is to maybe have like a Hal that's dressed in the profession that you actually identify with. So when you go in to your account, you see, like if you're a farmer, there's going to be agricultural Hal. Maybe he's wearing a straw hat with a piece of wheat sticking out of his mouth and overalls on, or something like that. And then from there, you could always like buy a farmer Hal T-shirt.
I like Hal the way he is, man. we have something in common.
I should have just said we modeled him after you, Rice, right?
Yeah, that would have been cool.
You were the inspiration behind Hal. No.
That would have been awesome, but Hal Finney definitely deserves it a lot more than me. So, but I do like the whole idea. Like, I didn't grasp like some of the things in the image, but the punky, spiky hair being an homage to cypherpunks.
Yeah.
I dig it, dude. I think it's really cool. I think it's a very cool idea. And
yeah, thanks.
So I thought for some reason I thought I had the Get Hedge Crypto Twitter account pulled up. So, but again, it's at Get Hedge Crypto. Get Hedge Crypto. It made me like I'm trying to read it phonetically, and I'm like I know, and I'm like DGE Crypto. Get the DGE Crypto. Get Hedge Crypto. I love it. Cool, man. Well, again, I really appreciate your time, and we definitely going to do this again. I don't know if you're going to be in Miami I want to be in New York for NFT NYC.
Okay.
I think it's the 1st and 2nd. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I think the 10th, 11th, and 12th, I think is the crypto Miami experience again. Wayne Marcel.
When is that?
Mid-November, like 10th, 11th, 12th ish. I'll send you some dates.
Yeah. I'll have to see if I'm down there again. We have a daughter who lives down there now, so we might try and hop down there for her birthday. So maybe I'll be around.
In the southern beach area?
She's hanging out near like Bradenton, Sarasota area.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have links down below for everything we're talking about, so people can check this out themselves, and we'll do a follow-up. And if you could bear with me 1 second, I'm just gonna go ahead and do my wrap up and stop recording.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your first time ever watching any of my videos and you've gotten this far, I definitely encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my channel and videos as they come out. Also, if you are already subscribed to the main channel, make sure you subscribe to the backup channel, Rice TVX2, the sequel on YouTube channel, and follow me as well on Odyssey and Library. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.